This video is going to be a film study look at the Seahawks defense and how they performed, particularly early in their 33-16 win over the Chiefs. I'm going to focus on the first three possessions, talk about Nick Emmanwori's usage and his abilities, some of the communication issues that seem to happen at least once, if not twice, into the boundary. The way the Chiefs tried to attack the Seahawks scheme, what they were able to get accomplished, perhaps at least early, really only focus on like the opening three possessions, like I said, and a significantly annotated video to try to give you guys an idea of what I think was going on with each play call and coverage, and how the Seahawks were trying to make sure they got in a right look against what the Chiefs were showing on each individual snap. So this first one is going to be the first possession. Definitely got some type of blown coverage here to the boundary. Initially, the Chiefs start out with a trip set to the field. You can see the three numbered receivers in different colors are going to motion number three into the boundary. Interestingly, Nick Emmanwori, like we kind of thought in some videos from last week, is being deployed as a dime linebacker here. He'll be spot shadowed in yellow generally for most of these plays because, first of all, he's the young, exciting draft pick that the Seahawks got on the defensive side, but also because he's the guy who moved around a lot. He played some nickel DB, some dime linebacker. There's the motion by number three. It's going to go across, and you can see there's significant communication occurring between Tariq Woolen and Nick Emmanwori. But for whatever reason, they just still don't get on the same page. It looks like Woolen is saying one thing and Emmanwori is saying something different. And right here, Woolen is still trying to confirm that he's got the right call, and something just doesn't work out correctly. There's just not enough players to deal with three into the boundary. When I say three into the boundary, I actually did a video on that last week. It's basically two stand-ups here, one receiver, and then a tight end, and then the running back, which is Isaiah Pacheco, with the purple line pointing to him, wide open on a 3rd and 2. Easy play for the Chiefs to execute into the boundary to gain 22 yards. Same play from the end zone angle. Woolen, I'll usually have spot shadowed in a different color. I need to get better about being consistent, but I only have 4 different colors to use. So in any case, you see the motion coming across and those guys trying to communicate to each other. It doesn't look like they're giving necessarily the same hand signal. Emmanwori's kind of grabbing his hands, and Woolen's kind of tapping his together. So they're just not on the same page about what they're checking to. Who's wrong, who's right, it doesn't necessarily matter. Either way, they still need a third guy over there. Those two cannot defend all 3 routes. So whether that was supposed to be Ernest Jones the fourth or the safety, in any case, you can see Woolen here is trying to chase that route, the number 1. Emmanwori is dealing with the tight end, and then here is Ernest Jones. They're totally outflanked. The defense is. It really doesn't matter to me whose fault it is. A simple mistake on 3 into the boundary really shouldn't, I think, result in a 22-yard gain, especially on a 3rd and 2. So that first possession, and I mean, you had first-class athletes out here on the field for the Seahawks, well-trained, many of whom have played in the defensive system now for their 2nd year. So when Emmanwori was on at nickel, they have this other inside linebacker, I think 52, is the will linebacker. So Emmanwori is spot shadowed in yellow down here once again. It's an 11 personnel grouping by the Chiefs, and they're going to get motion into the boundary from the field. Once again, it's Juju Smith-Schuster, and it becomes 4 into the boundary. So you've got 3 receivers here, one of which is a tight end, and then the running back steal. This is, of course, like an RPO play action. Woolen is definitely trying to get some call across. From a number standpoint, are the Seahawks wrong? I don't know. I mean, I don't know what their call is or what their concept is. I do know how to count, and if you count the quarterback, which we generally would because he's part of the read, it's a 4-on-4. You would probably prefer to have this guy here be more like half manning it, and so maybe his feet be stemming further down, and then redirect this way if Minshew keeps it and throws it to the bubble to Juju out into the boundary. It's an RPO slash play action. Some of these are not reads. It's so really isn't an RPO. It's just a play action look. You never really can tell if it's a pre-snap or a post-snap read sometimes. But in any case, here's the same play from the end zone angle. I should label this more often with the blue line to indicate the field and the boundary. The boundary is the short side of the field. So the NFL hashes are quite close together. I think they're 18 feet apart. I might be wrong. Maybe it's 21, but they're quite close together. They're far closer together than high school and college hash marks are. And that's designed to influence or help the boundary side passing game, put more stress on the defense. And I think it's mission accomplished from the NFL's perspective. In any case, as you get the motion over, once again, it's trips from the field. It's Juju. Woolen is clearly trying to signal to the rest of the defense that something's up, and they needed to either check something or ensure that they were in the right look. And look, the reality is anytime you put four into the boundary and the defense stays in a too high look, they're probably going to be outnumbered, whether they're in a nickel set or a base 3-4 or a base 4-3. But you can see the horizontal conflict that the Chiefs are putting the Seahawks defense in here. Steele, the running back, is crossing the quarterback's face. And then you've got the threat of the bubble screen to the bunch or the trips to Juju into the boundary. There appears to be, what would be the read man in most situations to give to Steele. I think it ends up being a 6-yard gain to create a 2nd and 4. Very next play, the aforementioned 2nd and 4. And so the Chiefs like to use this 12 personnel a lot Friday night. And oftentimes Macdonald and Durde answered with their nickel. And so Reek Woolen is spot shadowed down here in orange, and he's going to be manned up on this tight end. Nick Emmanwori is back on the field here as a nickel defender to the field, lined up over the number 2 receiver. I actually think he does a nice job in coverage here on this out and up. There's the route that the tight end is going to run, and man, when you get the end zone angle, the length that Woolen has to be able to close down, he puts you in a precarious position as a quarterback trying to throw some of these things. With his ability to undercut, he almost kind of disappears for a moment in undercutting. Does he grab the hip of the tight end? Yeah, he kind of does this often, but he really cuts that angle such that the quarterback is taking a chance by throwing this route. But let's look at Nick Emmanwori covering this, a little bit of an out and up / wheel by the number 2 receiver. I think it's Sky Moore. Because he happens to be open into his outside, I'm talking about Nick, it's a whole lot easier for him to handle this turn up the field. There's no reason for him to try to press this right now until he sees the receiver turn and run towards the sideline in a legitimate manner to try to run an out route. In this case, he stayed on top of things really well as a curl flat defender or a nickel in this case. End zone angle, same play. And this really feeds into the next play that the Chiefs run on a 3rd and 4. But this is still the 2nd and 4. It's a mismatch with Woolen on a tight end, right? He's an athletic freak, a great speed. I hope he plays really well this year, becomes a shutdown defender once again. I thought he had stretches where he played at an extremely high level in 2024. I think he'll be put into position to succeed in Macdonald's defense because he'll generally be playing to the boundary, which is, where we are here with the ball being on the left hash. Inside linebacker 52, I think it's O'Connell. I think that's his name, is on the running back, Mitchell, that used to play for the 49ers. And so you can see Woolen is connected to the tight end, but he's also looking directly here at the quarterback, like, please throw this football, because he wants to undercut it and take it back to the house. So Minshew, being the smart quarterback that he is, it puts it out in front where, really there's a smaller chance of it being completed, but there's zero chance of it being intercepted. Now, the Chiefs are, in some cases, like a Terminator or a machine. They learn, Andy Reid and the offensive staff. And so I would say that they go right back to the drag concept, except here they tack on 1 or 2 layers of pick / rub concepts to try to defeat Woolen, and they actually do get the receiver open. I'm talking about down here, it's Juju versus Woolen. Additional to that, Nick Emmanwori is off the field. Witherspoon is the nickel to the field, and then this is going to be the one that is the great play by Bryant, the safety to the field, number 8. There's the route. Woolen has to work hard just to run through all this trash, all this crap, and it's a screen by the number 2 receiver to the field. He's got absolute eyes on Woolen. I'm talking about this number 2 receiver here, and he's trying to force Woolen to go over the top such that this route can be completed underneath. Keep in mind, it's a 3rd and 4. The links that the Chiefs go to get these picks or rubs accomplished, look at the exchange that's happening with this tight end and with Juju going underneath of that. And the point there is consider it like step 1. They're trying to get Juju to go underneath of him, and then this receiver for the Chiefs is going to screen Woolen in a way that makes him go over the top a second time. They're creating space for an athlete. Juju, no disrespect, could not get open in a one-on-one competition with Reek Woolen, but with one, maybe 1.5 screens being successful, rubs or picks being successful, is able to get open for the short completion that Bryant covers up. That's the definition of a safety, right? Is a guy who is able to erase mistakes, and in this case, Bryant did so. It was a great play. Interesting that Nick is off the field here. I have to identify and talk about Morris a little bit, number 94, the guy from Michigan. I think he's drafted in 2002, but I might be wrong. Played really well at certain times. Here, the Seahawks are lined up with 3 D linemen to one side, and that's Ernest Jones IV walked up, and then Hall off the edge, and they're going to stunt Morris all the way around here. Hall is going to occupy this right tackle, and then Morris all the way around. That's who gets the pressure on Minshew's face to force, maybe a little bit of a softer throw. If Morris isn't there in that window, then Minshew can probably get this ball with more pace to Juju, such that it's going to be a first down. There's the receiver from the field. Like I said, he's really seeking to force Woolen to go over the top. And it's already, the first pick or rub has already been successful. The second one just makes it an even bigger win. But look at Morris's effort to get in this window for Minshew and force Minshew's ball to kind of float a little bit. Bryant tackles him, forces the, of course, 4th and 1. Really the definition of a safety, and I think Bryant is an underrated player anyway, who was probably forgotten about by most people, myself included, when they drafted Nick Emmanwori. So the very next play, this is not a 6th offensive lineman on the field. They've just gone tackle over. So 3 linemen to the left and then an eligible tight end here and here. So I just called it like wing I. That's what it would be for me, for the system and the terminology that I know. 4 down linemen on a short yardage situation, probably to defend against the sneak. 2 edge defenders, and then what they're trying to do conceptually is just get Julian Love and Ernest Jones IV totally unblocked, and the tailback motion, little fake, actually does pull Ernest Jones IV with him. The reverse pivot by Minshew doesn't fool Julian Love. He just does everything right. If you don't know, I did a film study video of him earlier in the summer, mostly 2023 film, I think some 2024. I mean, please go check it out if you're interested in seeing what my thoughts are of him. I think he's extremely underrated. He does something that's really subtle and brilliant here. He ends up with his arms around the legs, and in a short yardage situation, that's what you want. That's actually what you try to teach in certain situations against certain offenses. So if you haven't checked out that film study video of Love, please consider doing so. Here he is right here, the end zone angle of the same play. Like I said, 4th and 1. This little fake by the running back will pull Ernest Jones IV out of there. It's just another example. The Chiefs' short yardage, they don't have a system of short yardage. They just have a bunch of plays. Now, the thing is, they're successful with them. They've consistently been successful in short yardage situations in certain moments, I should say, with their plays. They don't have concepts that build off of each other. They have individual plays, but it's a reverse pivot by the quarterback, dive to steal, who's trying to bring it back, and then the way Love gets a handle on his midsection and then his legs, such that all forward momentum is absolutely stopped, and Steele couldn't stretch forward for the first down. I thought that was just a brilliant play, a badass moment, and Julian Love was like one of the few guys that wasn't celebrating, vociferously. He just seems to be a guy that handles everything like he's been there before. Like I said, if you haven't checked out that Julian Love video from, I think it was about 6 weeks ago, please consider doing so. I think it's about a 16 or 18-minute film study that actually shows some plays of him from 2022 with the Giants, because they played the Ravens that year. I do want to say this in terms of Nick Emmanwori and his deployment. I think this is what you should get used to, him being a nickel safety, nickel DB, and a dime linebacker, because really, do they really need him to play safety this year? You got Bryant, you got Love, Devin Witherspoon can play the nickel. I mean, what an asset this would be to, quote, solve the will linebacker position on passing downs, that is, if you could get the following guys all on the field together. right? Witherspoon as the nickel, Nick Emmanwori as the dime, your two safeties, Bryant and Love, and then your outside corners, whoever the other guy's going to be, Job, Pritchett, whatever, along with Reek Woolen. Just an option, something to think about, because that's really what you saw in this game against the Chiefs when Nick Emmanwori was at the dime linebacker position, which I'll show you here in a little bit. Second or third point, I guess I should say, if you've ever considered supporting my work, I do have a Patreon. It's $5.50 a month for Seahawks fans. We're up to 10 people now that are in the Seahawks community Discord. It's a private community where you, as a Seahawks fan, can join and talk about your team, the players, the concepts, the upcoming matchups. And I have it on my phone, so it's direct access to me as the content creator and someone who's going to do Seahawks film every week. And I actually share a lot of film in the Discord in a way that is consumable for you as a fan if you're interested at all. The link is in the description. Again, it's $5.50 a month for Seahawks fans to get into the Discord. Second possession here, it's going to be a 1st and 10, and Emmanwori is at the nickel against 12 personnel. So once again, they've matched 12 personnel with their nickel. That's something Mike Macdonald will do depending on field and boundary game situation. There's the blitz path roughly that Emmanwori takes the yellow line. The running back is getting the ball. That's the orange line. The quarterback is reverse pivoting there in purple. Emmanwori's going to close down on this. It's a cut by the backside tight end. Talking about here. He steps up a little bit with his helmet getting high and then goes low. Depending on which state you're in a high school affiliation, that will be illegal because the initial charge is not to go low. But in any case, Nick closes down really well here. You also have a win by the frontside D tackle. I think it's Peely. Forgive me if I mispronounce that name. But there's the two tight ends, spot shadowed in orange. They roll the corner up to the boundary. It's Job because Woolen is not on the field here as in run support because they needed him, right? When you're defending 12 personnel out of your nickel, look at the gaps that we've got, right? We got the two yellow gaps. Then we've got the two orange gaps. So that makes a total of 4 so far. The two purple gaps, which is C gaps. That makes a total of 6 so far. And then you've got your two D gaps. There's 8 gaps here because of the two tight ends. They've created a 3-man surface to both sides. So mathematically, you've created 4 gaps. You need that corner and the nickel defender. In this case, they bring Woolen off the edge. And this is the win that you've got by Peely. On the front side, really done a nice job getting his hands to the inside of that guard. I'm talking about his left arm here. And then he's able to frame that guy up. You can see his left arm lifted up high, right shoulder dipped down low. You can see the football shed to get off of the blocker. And Nick closes down from the backside. I think Emmanwori had 2 tackles on the day. Really nice illustration of, some of the things you're going to see when you're trying to defend 12 personnel from a nickel platform. Same possession. This is a 2nd and 7, so we're skipping some plays here. Don't get me wrong. And I think you get a quarterback pressure by Morris on this one. There's where the ball is spotted. It's on the right hash. So just from a terminology standpoint, if you're unfamiliar, Emmanwori is on the field in a base defensive look or a 4-2-5. He'd be the will linebacker. Because he's not actually a linebacker, he may rep with the linebackers. He's a dime linebacker here. He's not going to be on the field at will linebacker on 1st and 10, generally, unless it's an obvious passing situation because of the game dynamics. This is the nickel to the field. Sometimes that'll be Witherspoon. Sometimes it'll be Emmanwori in the preseason or others. So from a terminology standpoint, when I refer to dime linebacker, I'm talking about the inside linebacker to the boundary. In this case, the ball's on the right hash. So Emmanwori's feet are right there. He's the dime. Looks like they're communicating for a moment, maybe overzealous in doing so because they have to switch back and tap their helmet. So, we're getting a good look at some of their coverage calls. Certainly looks like man here to the boundary, which is commonly used in Mike McDaniel's defense. The dime linebacker or will man on the running back, and the boundary side corner manned on the X receiver. Looks like that's what we get. Morris with a win, I think, against the left tackle. The communication was, when I say overzealous, you can't have too much communication, right? But uh, this is the third time early in the game where I saw so much communication that guys had to check back into the coverage that was initially called. That's what I'm kind of referring to when I say overzealous. Here is Morris 94 off the edge, clean, quick win. Maybe the right tackle thinks he's going to get help from the running back, but just no edge set at all. I mean, that step with the right foot and that attempt at a to get his hands on was really poor. And in this case, Emmanwori all over the running back and the boundary side receiver, boundary side corner, all over the X receiver. So creates this 3rd and 7 pass interference, DPI on the safety. Just another illustration of Emmanwori at the dime linebacker position. Kind of a floater from Minshew, but in any case, they get the defensive pass interference call. Maybe the contact was, quote, incidental. I think it was Mike Robinson on the Seahawks broadcast or the local stream that I ended up getting. But certainly it ended up, being a well-warranted call. Really nice touchdown by Minshew here. Like I said, we're into the second possession, so we've skipped forward some plays. Emmanwori is off the field, and clearly the Seahawks are in a goal line look. I call this a cheat play. It's where the quarterback and the running back are flowing to the same side. Some people call it fast flow. So the running back's path is roughly illuminated there. It's probably actually a little bit more angular than that. Quarterback reverse pivoting, hence the orange line in that manner. So his chest is going to face away from us first. So that's what I mean by reverse pivot. He's turning, in this case, counterclockwise. So his chest will be pointing up to the top side of our screen and then turn to face us second, as opposed to opening to this, which wouldn't be a reverse pivot. Running back gets covered up well, a steal by, I think it's a linebacker, outside linebacker here. And then I believe this is Drake Thomas, is going to be secondary QB contain. So he's going to front up Minshew as quick as he can. Minshew floats this thing back across his body to Tunyon, who initially was covered up well by 23. We're talking about right here. Minshew just got the smarts and savvy and guts to make this throw. Not sure, maybe what's coming here from the other side of the field, the far side of the field. But in this case, ends up being a nice touchdown. Their only offensive touchdown of the night. Of course, the other one was the punt return by Sky Moore in the fourth quarter. Finally, the last play that we'll show. This is Chiefs' third possession. This is a very short-lived possession, in fact, because it's a safety. Peely, again, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that, but number 95. This is after the failed fourth down play for the Seahawks offense, where Drew Lock and Clint Kubiak had a cheat play call, basically the same exact concept that Minshew just turned into a touchdown. But once again, you've got 12 personnel, but this time the Seahawks have answered with their base 3-4. So outside linebacker, 3 D tackles, 2 inside linebackers, a 3-4, or what people in the old days used to refer to as a 50. And so this player here is not the nickel defender. It's a strong safety who is rolled up out of a 3-4. There's the free safety, and here's the boundary side corner. I believe it's Job. The run action is to the offense's left. Again, you get a reverse pivot and kind of a little cool blocking scheme or manner of getting this done by the Chiefs. It's just really a fold block scheme, but nowadays people will call it pin pull. So what we mean is, in dealing with this edge defender, instead of having the tight end step out, what they're going to do is the tight end's going to release inside, free release up to the inside linebacker, and then the left tackle is going to bucket step a little bit, and he's going to fold out to the edge defender. What that means is that the guard will be one-on-one with the D tackle. Well, the D tackle, the 3 technique Peely, steps inside, kind of loses his balance just for a moment, but he ricochets off the center. Really cool to make the tackle for loss for a safety, and I think Drake Thomas is actually involved as well. So here's the blocking scheme that I'll talk about. Tight end free releasing right up to the inside linebacker level. O'Connell, forgive me if I'm saying that name wrong. The left tackle folding out to kick out Morris, the defensive end / outside linebacker. And then Peely is going to stunt inside. So what I mean by stunt inside is he's going to step this way, and then he's actually going to ricochet off of this center and redirect in that manner. The left guard's not expecting this, number one. The left guard is one-on-one totally by himself here. Why? Because the left tackle is fold blocking it. He's working out to the edge defender. So it's a one-on-one. The D tackle wins here from a base personnel standpoint, a base 3-4 look. ends up forcing the safety. I mean, really, for all intents and purposes, at a certain point here, the game was pretty much over because the Seahawks defense chewed up everyone else once Minshew went out of the game, and the offense just kept rolling. I did a film study video earlier tonight on the first possession when Sam Darnold was in the game. Really didn't have much from Drew Lock, who played exceptional, if you ask me. I would like to do something on Clint Kubiak's run game and how it's married up, most people would call it. I would say coordinated or synchronized with the play action pass concepts. Essentially, same personnel groups, same formations, but you got 2 or 3 or maybe 4 plays from each formation, so the defense can't guess right. I do think that there's a lot to say about how Macdonald and Durday are matching 12 personnel when they go with the base defensive structure, like the last play I showed you, right? The 3-4 with the strong safety rolled up versus a nickel look like when Emmanwori blitzed off the edge and made the tackle on the running back from behind. It's going to be a season-long thing to consider. So when you're watching the games, I'm not telling you what to look at, but try to pick up how many tight ends are on the field. That's the game that I try to play mentally or visually. How many tight ends are on the field? And then are they in a nickel set or are they in a base 3-4? Macdonald, generally a base 3-4 guy. 4-3 is not his thing. He's got a unique way that he gets to a 4-3 look occasionally. I do think Nick Emmanwori is being trained to play nickel and dime almost exclusively, at least early. I said this in a video last week or a week and a half ago, very similar to Kyle Hamilton. And what we've seen in the first 2 games really lines up with what I saw in Hamilton's rookie year of 2022, and I think it fits for the Seahawks personnel from the standpoint that Ernest Jones IV is very reliable. You pretty much know what you're going to get from him. First down, second down, third down, fourth down. The will linebacker position, from what I'm hearing and what I think I know, seems to be the weaker position out of all 11 starters on the defense. So third down passing situations, you got a fast athlete, really good blitzer. He can certainly cover running backs. I'm talking about Nick Emmanwori. Get him on the field as a dime linebacker. It suits the personnel, if you ask me. The trickle down effect that it has, however, if he doesn't play nickel on 3rd and 7, is that means Devon Witherspoon plays nickel. And then who plays the other outside corner? I guess another option, probably a third look for Macdonald, will be keeping Witherspoon as an outside corner with Reek Woolen. And when Nick Emmanwori slides to dime linebacker, someone else plays the nickel position. That's the beauty of what Macdonald does, and I'm sure Aiden Durday has co-signed everything that Macdonald wants him to do. He'll do is he's versatile, he's adaptable, and he gives you different looks. It's a whole heck of a lot of fun for me to try to produce these videos. I'm sorry that this one went on so long. You're more than welcome to let me know if you think it's too long. The first possession was a fun stop, the brilliant play by Julian Love. If I could get you to do anything from this video, it would be to go back and watch my film study of his from about 6 weeks ago, somewhere in that timeline, because it was a lot of fun to look at his film from 2023 and 2024. I think he plays the game at an all-pro level and deserves to be recognized as such. In any case, if you enjoyed this film study look at the Seahawks defense in their blowout win over the Chiefs, then first of all, let me know in the comments section. Likes and comments drive the engagement. And then second of all, if you think other Seahawks fans would enjoy this film study as well, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.